Many point to the Spartan-IIs as the pinnacle of excellence amongst the Spartan classes, and while easily being the most famous, in my opinion, they are not the best class of Spartans. That honor, in my heart, belongs to the Spartan-IIIs. Cheaper, more numerous, but just as effective, Spartan-IIIs were the first improvement on the lessons learned by the Office of Naval Intelligence during the development of the Spartan-II program, resulting not only in superior soldiers, but laid the groundwork for the groundbreaking achievements that occurred during the Spartan-IV program. The program itself was the brainchild of Colonel James Ackerson, a decorated officer of the UNSC who had a serious axe to grind with Dr. Halsey. He saw this program originally as a supplement to the Spartan-II program, as after seeing the ridiculous price for a handful of Spartan-IIs, only wanted to perform as much cost-cutting as possible, as an economic collapse in the midst of an alien invasion is probably not the best thing. However, after the proposed second class of Spartan-IIs failed, mostly due to Halsey's selected candidates dying due to Covenant invasion and getting too old, it was quietly scrapped, while all that funding and resources was put towards the Spartan-III program, which was so top secret that Halsey didn't learn of its existence until Noble Team stared her in the face during the Battle of Reach. After Ackerson completely copied Halsey's homework, he began to make several changes that would correct many of the issues that plagued the Spartan-II program and would strongly differentiate the 2s from the 3s. The first is gene pool and numbers. The gene pool was significantly widened, resulting in a greater number of Spartans available instead of the incredibly strict psychological and physical parameters Halsey preferred. This would result in a wider variety of personalities and behavioral issues though, as many Spartan-IIIs were far more aggressive compared to their Spartan-II counterparts. The recruiting method also pulled exclusively from war orphans, causing the questionable moral decision of kidnapping children to conveniently disappear. These war orphans, when presented with the opportunity for revenge, often took it, and Oni was more than happy to oblige. The second would be the augmentations. Spartan-II's augmentations, while producing incredibly strong soldiers, were temperamental at best and unreliable at worst, as the body would often reject the implants, either crippling or outright killing the candidate, resulting in only 33 functional Spartans of the original 75 candidates, of that 75 being cut down from 150. Spartan-IIIs focused on chemical augmentations instead of implants, and had a nearly 0% casualty rate instead of the 50% of the Spartan-IIs. And while not as strong or large as the 2s, they were still incredibly strong, and the augmentations proved to be just as effective, if not more so, than the ones of the Spartan-IIs. The third would be armor. Of all things that made Oni look in horror at the cost of the Spartan program, it was Mjolnir. Mjolnir is effective, and would become much cheaper to produce as time went on. But one set of Mjolnir armor would cost as much as a destroyer, and given that the original Alpha Company batch of Spartan-IIIs was 300 Spartans, this was not a cost Oni was willing to pay. So instead, they decided to invest in a different line of armor, known as SPI, or Semi-Powered Infiltration Armor. While it honestly wasn't as effective as Mjolnir, not being able to double the strength and speed of the wearer like Mjolnir would, it was still incredibly strong and could take a full-force punch from a Mjolnir-equipped Spartan and not break, only denting it, while also providing a light boost to strength and speed to the wearer. But the best part about it was that it did not require the user to be augmented, meaning it could be used by ODSTs or special Oni agents, which it often was for special assignments. The main benefit that it brought, though, was the fact that the suit was comprised of photoreactive panels, and even as of 2560, this is a better suit for stealth-based operations and basically being practically invisible than Mjolnir with active camouflage and stealth enhancements. But outside of all the technical stuff, the real cherry on top for this was the fact that the Spartan-IIIs would be trained by Franklin Mendez, the man who trained the Spartan-IIs, and Kurt 051 under the name Kurt Ambrose, a Spartan-II Oni kidnapped mid-mission to help train the Spartan-IIIs, and one of the 4 real leaders amongst the Spartan-II program, the others being listed as Jerome, Fred, and the Master Chief himself. All of this to create the best possible scenario for a successor class of Spartans, with not only iteration, but innovation and refinement in experience from those who actually were Spartans in the field. And over the course of the Human Covenant War, over 1,000 Spartan-IIIs were produced, meaning most of the engagements fought and won by Spartans were not done by Spartan-IIs, but by Spartan-IIIs. However, the Spartan-IIIs would not be treated as the super soldiers the Spartan-IIs were, although they were more than capable of the job. Most of the Spartan-IIIs would die in combat, as the UNSC was losing the war with the Covenant very badly. They were running out of time, and as such, a majority of Alpha, Beta, and Gamma companies would die on suicidal missions that existed solely by the UNSC and Earth time. Whether it was days, weeks, or months, the Office of Naval Intelligence and Ackerson considered this necessary, as their efforts during the likes of Operation Prometheus and Torpedo would give the UNSC valuable intel and time at the expense of nearly 100% of those deployed. However, not all Spartan-3s would share this fate, as Kurt saw the need for specialists similar to the Spartan-2s, and many Spartan-3s would be pulled before deployment and organized into fire teams or headhunter teams depending on their skills. The most famous of these teams would be Noble Team, who met their tragic end during the Battle of Reach, with June being the lone survivor. The Headhunters were particularly useful, as they reported directly to Oni and were responsible for taking out many high-value targets or performing long-range reconnaissance. A subset of the Headhunters were called Lone Wolves, even more elite operators that operated, well, alone, and the most famous member of this group was Noble Six, his work during this period getting him his much-coveted hyper-lethal status. This program still exists within the Spartan-IV program, with most of their operations being classified. Many of these Spartans would be outfitted with Mjolnir armor, unlike their comrades, or an energy shield-equipped variant of SPI. However, over time, Kurt would begin to crack, as training hundreds and hundreds of Spartans only to see them go die would put you in a pretty bad state of mind. So for the Gamma class, their augmentations would have some special additions, including chemicals that would be considered widely illegal by the UNSC, which is funny since everything Oni does is basically illegal, in an attempt to improve the survivability rates of Spartan-3s in combat. But this would make them incredibly erratic, violent, incredibly strong, and required the use of drugs called smoothers to keep their aggressive tendencies at bay. These legal drugs would work quite well, actually, and when they were besieged on their training world of Onyx, which turned out to be a Forerunner shield world as the Covenant began to invade, these drugs would not be used again, as after the Onyx conflict, no more Spartan-III classes were created, as the Spartan-IV program would begin immediately where the Spartan-III program left off, with all surviving Spartan-3s either returning to combat duty or becoming advisors in the case of June. The Spartan-3s are my favorite Spartans because they didn't feel like super soldiers. They felt like a middle ground between the ODSTs and the Spartan-2s. And sure, in all essence, they were super soldiers, but they felt more like frontline troops. They were the unsung heroes of the Human Covenant War, with many Spartan-III victories being attributed to the 2s throughout the war, something not a single Spartan-III complained about, as the mission was more important to them than glory. They fought differently, they focused on teamwork, but all around just felt more human. While Spartan-4s look like just Spartan-2s again, the 3s are distinct, and I love them to pieces. I just wish we got to see more of them in certain areas, as the only places where they really appear are in Halo Ghosts of Onyx, Halo Reach, and Halo Last Light and Retribution, which are basically a follow-up of Ghosts of Onyx, including featuring a lot of the same characters. And honestly, if you want to learn more about them, read those 4 books, but mostly look at Ghosts of Onyx and Halo Reach, as a lot of the lore that's shown up in this video comes directly from those 2 sources. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to consider supporting the channel, please consider becoming a member, and thank you very much to all the YouTube members that have joined up until this point. It really means a lot to me, and thank you so much. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great night.